everybody, welcome to the KFO show, Kayak Fishing Obsessed. My name's Darren. I'm your host from Wendell Fishing. You check me out at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. And if you love kayak fishing, then you're in the right place because this is all about leveling up your kayak angling skills. And I'm not the expert. I'm bringing on the experts, and that's why I'm excited tonight. I got ChiCityYaker with us, Michael out of Chicago. And I got all kinds of questions for him. I've been spending a ton of time on his YouTube channel today. I want to know why he started. I believe he's full-time. He's got some teams he's a part of. I want to talk about his kayak fishing setup. I think he runs Live Scope. I want to learn about that. Saw a video on some angry shore anglers. Want to talk about that. Lures for Kings. I mean, I think I got more questions than I actually have time. But enough of this. Michael, welcome to the show. Thanks for hopping on.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honored. Appreciate it. I'm excited. I kind of heard what you've already led with. So we might run out of time before we get to everything. So I'm here, man. Thank you.
I didn't even name them all. I got more questions.
The minute you said the angry shore guys, I'm like, oh, that could be a whole show by itself.
I want to hear all about it because you were like, I can't believe you kept your cool for as long as you did. Oh my God. We'll get there in just a moment.
Okay.
Because I want to.
You see me do this, right? I'm like, oh, all right, I'm ready.
I got to hear it. I got to know. Or you've been on YouTube since 16, 14?
Yeah.
Why'd you start it? Tell me the story.
Yeah. So I started it just at that point. I started it just to document my fishing adventures. I had a full-time career in broadcast radio. And so that was just a little fun thing. I would just upload videos of me fishing, really to document my kayak fishing. That is when I started kayak fishing. I got a kayak and then I was like, oh, I want to make videos about this journey and doing this new thing. Back in that time period, it wasn't the boom of kayaks. So it was starting to get some attention. But it was nothing like what we saw in the last 5 years, let's say, or something, especially with COVID. It just blew up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really still kind of early on, especially because we started seeing, I kind of got into kayak game when we started to see some significant design improvements and a lot more brands are starting to creep up into the space and a lot of variety and offerings for kayaks. So I'm really happy at the point I got into it. Some of the guys that I learned that were like before me that I learned from, like good friend Rob, they started off with like the recreational kayaks.
Oh yeah.
So imagine ours were more like one-man boats. So yeah, I started the channel just to document it, and it was just for fun. And did that for a lot of years up until 2020. Up until 2020, it was just for fun, documenting it, sharing some tips and ideas, what I've learned, what I've done. People ask questions. How are you doing this? How are you doing that? So I would try to answer that. But in 2020 is when it became like, I'm going, I know you said family friendly, but going straight to, going hard in the paint. Yeah. We're going to go real. I'm trying to be, we were going real hard with the content and saying, I want to pursue this full time. I want to make this something, and grow this. And so 2020 is when it started to become like, all right, let's do it.
Or really quick, because I know there's a lot of guys out there. It's like the dream to do what you did, go full time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what for you was like the things you had to meet in order to go full time? Or do you got like a sugar mama in the background making bank or something?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great question. I mean, the first thing that really was the precipice for this entire decision to, I'm going to go full time. And a lot of people might be wondering, what's that thing that I need that's going to push me over the edge to make that commitment? Well, for me, very easily, I got laid off. So,
makes it real easy. Decision is made
it real easy. Yeah. No, like I said, I come from a radio background in the music entertainment world, and hence is why talking and all this is very natural for me. Been concentrating outside of the outdoor fishing space for a lot of years as well. But a lot of it was 2020 company, used to work for iHeartMedia, largest radio conglomerate in the world.
Yeah.
They had settled, they were in massive $1 billion debt. They cut a deal with their creditors. And of course, with that, what happened then was they had to cut their operating costs once they did that, and they did like a mass layoff, much like what we're seeing right now between Twitter, Facebook, Amazon. For those of you that are kind of following up in the tech world, there's massive layoffs right now.
Oh,
But that happened, and you know, it gave me my freedom back. A lot of my time was so consumed into my career, radio, all that goes into that lifestyle, in the entertainment world. And so I kind of regained that, and I thought to myself, like, where are my passions at now in life?
mm.
And kayak fishing has been something that over these years has just grown, and learned so much. And just my passion for sharing this experience, being able to educate others on how to do it safely, because obviously being out on big water is very dangerous if you're not prepared. And because we're seeing such an increase in people getting into the sport, I want to make sure and play my part, to give people information so they can get out there, have success and be safe, are my two big things. And so, yeah, that decision was, laid off, and I had the time, and I'm like, let me just invest the time to be more consistent with the content, and let's see where it goes.
So your radio broadcast, that's why his audio sounds so awesome right now. He's got it dialed in. What did you do for iHeartRadio? I'm just curious. Like,
Uh,
what was your thing?
radio. I was on the air as radio personality. I
Okay,
had
so
my
like
own, yeah, on the
had your
air
own
talk.
show and stuff?
Yep, own show. Number one night show, hip hop station. WGCI in Chicago. It's number one hip hop station, and I mean, I was on there for over a decade. Between live DJing, my own mix shows, or and then became the night personality. So from 6 to midnight, people would hear me, and I talked to 1.3 million people a week.
Dang.
Yeah,
And
very
that's awesome.
different from what I'm doing now, but not
Yeah,
not so much. Just the content's different, but what I'm doing is it's very much the same, right? Talking to people, it's very natural. I love talking, meeting people. It's essentially the same thing. I'm just applying it in a different field now, and I love it. I love it. Really enjoying it.
now is kayak, yeah, you feel super comfortable. I can tell. Is kayak fishing the only thing you got your hands in? I know I haven't talked to Michael prior to this, everybody. We have like a 3-minute conversation before we started, and so
Yeah,
I
man.
really don't know him, and I like to keep it
This
that
guy
way.
works for the FBI. I don't know where.
No, I'm not.
He's secretly an FBI agent.
I'm just curious. I love.
Are you?
I love what people
Listen,
do.
I'm not one of those guys from Lake Erie that stuff weights in the fish's gut. All right, I don't. You're not going to pin me, Copper.
It hurts a little bit. That's like an hour north of me.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like I'm guilty by association there.
Man. That's another topic, but no, I content create in a couple different avenues. Much like the whole saying of having multiple revenue streams, right? Is a path to financial security. I think content is much the same way. It's hard pressed to invest all your eggs in one basket within content. If you're a content creator, I think you have to create in different places and spaces within your content. So for me, most people that know me is Michael ChiCityYaker. They know me because of the outdoor content, but because I had the life before the kayak fishing, which was in the music, entertainment, radio, I have that brand and those outlets that I still create, and that has been wildly successful, growth and an explosion with content there. And so I'm juggling a lot. uh, a day in the life is I'm creating for all the different platforms, for all the different outlets that I'm doing, whether it's a fishing piece like today. I just told you got a little worried that I wasn't going to show up.
Because you're out fishing. That's
Well,
the
I
only
was
reason
out
you can't
fishing.
show up
Yeah,
for the
it
show
was a
is because
bust.
you're late.
At least I'd be late for a great reason. It's fishing, okay? I think that's a very acceptable reason to be late if you're out fishing. No, but so yeah, I'm constantly juggling content. A lot of it's for myself. I also do create content for other small businesses and brands. UGC, which is called user generated content. So they might say, man, we can really use this for this product, da da da. And so I'll work on creating stuff for them that they can use for their brand, social medias, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Nice. Well, let's hop into a little bit of fishing. I was watching your
Yeah.
videos. I was going way back. We're going like 6 years back, where it doesn't even look like
I
you
need to hide
anymore.
those videos.
Cringe. We all look back. We're like, oh, cringe. First 100, right, or whatever
Man.
they say are the worst. But I noticed throughout your videos, you've upgraded kayaks along the way. Tell
Yeah.
me kind of your upgrade scenario, what you liked about them or what you didn't like along the way. And then we got to have this conversation that I really resonated with, that you did a good job of talking about. I've thought about doing a video about it. It's kind of like these kayak companies. They're like, oh, we want to sell more kayaks, and so we'll take boat fishermen, slap their name on it, and try to sell more kayaks. And it's super frustrating. I want everyone to hear your thoughts on it, because I thought they were spot on, and I loved them. So go back to the first question. Hopefully, let's end there.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting journey. I think much like anything else, your kayak fishing is a journey. I first started off with a pair of Jackson kayaks. They make great kayaks. I don't think any brand out there makes a outright horrible product. For the bigger name, the brand name, brands, if you will. They all
Talk
make
about my
solid.
Sun Dolphin or Rupa 10.
Stop, man. Don't listen. They're gonna clip this out, and no, don't do that to me. Okay.
I have a Sun Dolphin or Rupa 10. I found it in the river.
This is
keep
how
going. We'll pass.
he's here to set me up. Oh man, this is not good. No, so I started off with Jackson kayaks, paddles. I had a big rig. I loved it. It was like a freaking pontoon carrier, and you really couldn't tip it over. It was great. And then I also had a Kraken, and the idea was the Kraken, which is 14 feet long, very narrow, was for Lake Michigan, and I had the big rig for like inland fishing, bass. At that time, I was bass fishing. And that's part of the story with this progression, right? I started off like most people, bass fishing. I was inland fishing, bass fishing. I only started to dabble with kayak fishing like Michigan. It was very early on in my experience with that. And then after a few seasons, I want to say maybe 2 seasons of doing that, I started to be like, I really enjoy Lake Michigan a lot more. If I'm gonna be all the way honest with you, I like the I like the prospect that I could not come back. For anyone that loves adventure and thrill seeking, there's a certain level of adrenaline that pumps you. Even today, when I go out there in the summertime, we're going out 3-4 miles offshore.
Okay.
It's there's a sense that something can happen here, and it's a thrill. It's a thrill seeking thing, right? I think it's comparable to people that maybe skydive.
You're an adrenaline junkie. Yeah.
Like it's an adrenaline thing. I get a kick out of it.
Never heard that in fishing before, but
well,
I get it.
Yeah. So
I have my own experience. I swam across Lake Michigan. I don't know if
really
I talk about this. Yeah, back it was years ago, but I started down in New Buffalo and swam nonstop without touching a boat, 50.6 miles across the lake, and finished outside of Chicago. Took me 35 hours. If you don't believe me, look it up. Swim to Chicago. I didn't actually make it. Oh my gosh, this is so stupid. So it was. I'm going to tell the story a little bit. So I started at noon on like a Friday. This is August, like the second week in August, right? When the water is going to, if it's going to be warm, it's going to be then. Started swimming at noon, through the day, into the night, through the night, into the next morning. And then I'm starting to have like troubles, right? I got a wetsuit on, swimming. My entire team's trying to get me to quit. I'm like, do not touch me. I'll tell you when. I used to be a long distance endurance athlete. If you're like scratch your head, what's this have to do with fishing? So I'm probably like a mile away from Navy Pier, and it's way past when I should have been in, and it's Lollapalooza that night. The Coast Guard's like, you can't swim behind the break wall. You got to go around to the beach. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Let's do it. And so I start swimming, put my head down. I'm like, only a mile. I swim in 2 miles an hour. I'll be there in a half hour. And my crew, I was swimming for like 2 hours. I'm like, what's going on? My crew's like, you've been swimming for 2 hours and you haven't moved. Like the current was coming out at the rate of which I was swimming in, and something just clicked in that moment. It's like, you need to stop right now. And I ended up going to Northwestern in the hospital that night. So called to swim to Chicago. Should have called to swim to Chicago Hospital. But I remember I'm out there swimming. It's 5-foot waves, and that's one thing if like you're in the water. But if you're on a kayak, especially Lake Michigan, that body of water can be dangerous, and it can happen
extremely
very quickly, faster than it happens in the ocean.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, Lake Michigan is in the top 10 most dangerous lakes in the world. It's that dangerous because, unlike oceans where you have the tides that help to kind of regulate, that gives it some level of consistency. This lake is it's really at the whim of the winds, mostly the winds. When you look at NOAA, if you look at the entire Lake Michigan, oh my God, there's different wind patterns all across the
Oh,
lake in different parts.
I
It's
remember
just,
watching it.
yeah,
It's going everywhere.
yeah, one, in my area could be coming out of the west. Then if you're on the Michigan side, it's blowing east. So that means that they're both pushing across the middle. Then you got the north coming. It's a whole thing. So that creates just a very Lake Michigan has a lot of current. There's a lot of current in that body of water. And that current can be different in different places too. So there's a lot going on. It can really be a big soup bowl at times, which makes it very dangerous, especially in the smaller vessels. So you have to certainly be aware of weather conditions, the wind conditions, even the prior day or two conditions to see how that leftover residue, from the wake, from the winds and the waves is going to impact the day you're looking to get out. So it's a lot that goes into going out there and being safe for sure.
Yeah. So just don't hop in your kayak and decide to go 3 miles offshore. That's
Yeah,
calculated, is what you're saying.
no. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
So have you had a scary moment?
Oh yeah, I've fallen. Okay, we kind of got derailed from the progression.
We did,
of the kayaks here.
there's no. Right,
You and your swimming story threw it all off.
So sorry.
Such a selfish host. I'll play. So, no. But after the paddle kayaks I have from Jackson,
right,
I then switched to the Hobie because a lot of the OGs that were here that were kayak fishing Lake Michigan were in Hobies. Like, this is the way to go. You want to be hands free, yada yada. I said, all right, cool. So I sold those and I got a Hobie. Like, my first Hobie was a Outback, the OG Outbacks.
Okay.
Not the new ones that they made now, but it's like the last of the last prior model. I'm not exactly a small guy like I used to be when I was in the Marine Corps, but that Outback was pretty narrow. I mean, it's 32 inches wide. However, there's like an inseam, so it's really only 27 inches once you're in the seat.
All right.
And so one day, it was summer, thank God, maybe August. I'm heading out on the Lake Michigan. It's like flat. It's the lake is like glass, right? You never think nothing's gonna happen, right? Just to kind of prove a point. Like glass, I said I'm trolling cranks out on my way out, and I might be 3/4 of a mile offshore at this point, when all of a sudden my right rod just goes. Rod bent over, zzz, it's screaming. I'm like, all right. And hindsight's probably a king. I go to pull the rod out. So now I'm fighting this fish. I'm still pedaling. It's important to keep your pedaling going because you want to keep that hook buried in. You want no slack. So I'm pedaling. I'm turning to my right because it's off to my right side. And as I'm fighting the fish, I don't know why, I was kind of leaning, right? I'm leaning the opposite way. So as I'm fighting the fish, I'm leaning too much. And it must have threw the hook. I think it threw the hook. The hook broke or something broke or it popped the hook. And because of me leaning and with the force, I'm trying to pull it, I went in. When it popped off, I just slid. I literally slid across my seat into the water. The Outback turtled over, dumped gear.
Of course it wasn't tethered, right? It's all at the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, this is early on, right? Like, it's very early on. This is still very early. Like, now there's so many products to tether. This is all very early, when people weren't even thinking about these products just yet. So yeah, I went for a swim, flipped the kayak back over, realized I lost the rods, reels, yada yada yada. And so now I'm in the water. Thankfully, this is August. The water temp was like 71, which is okay.
It's gonna get, yeah,
it's as good as it's gonna get. So at that point, I went to go self-recover, and I wasn't successful in self-recovering. As I realized, right, these are like these growing pains. I realized that I had put too much crap on my gunnels, and it was making it hard for me to block. It was essentially blocking me from recovering. So at that point, a charter saw. I waved them down. They were kind enough to help me out. I got back in the kayak, and at that point, I was a bit shook over everything. Like a lot of it was in disbelief. How the hell did I just fall out? And it's flat calm of all the days. So I ended up pedaling back, and as I'm pedaling back, I'm like, man, this feels real sluggish. I'm really pumping my legs, and I'm not really moving around much. And at that point, I look around, I turn behind me, and I see, I see, I see the tail end, the stern of the kayak on the Outback was pretty much just underwater.
What?
So yeah, the
You're
Outback,
pushing water, pulling water.
I had gallons of water in the kayak
No bilge pump, of course, because it's early on, right?
early on. Well, they had bilge pumps, but I think I wasn't educated enough to know like to have that just yet, or maybe I did. I can't remember. This was years ago. So, man, that was the longest paddle. My legs were burning. All I could think about was please don't sink while I'm in here. And I made it back. And yeah, when I dumped the kayak out, there was gallons of water in there. Those hatches on those Hobies back then were just not great for sealing off stuff, and it would take on a lot of water. So that happened. Once that happened, I immediately sold that kayak and got a PA.
Oh, nice.
And then
14?
Yep, PA 14. Stood with them for quite a few years.
You went all in then.
Yeah. I went with the PA. It had more roomy, better for the bigger guys. I fished that for years, 5+ years, I think, or so. I had that kayak somewhere around there.
Okay.
Had the original version, then had the 180, and then it was about 2020 when I was looking and I saw Old Town was making a new kayak, and I caught wind of the autopilot. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I'm still thinking to myself, I'll stay with a Hobie. But then I saw Hobies kind of move to come out with a 360 drive, and I saw the price points. And it was at that point that I decided that I was going to go a different direction and give Old Town a shot with this autopilot. They came out with the autopilot for $39.99 for the 136, and you get the motor with it. I'm like, damn, I get a motor, but the Hobies was like $4,600 for a drive. I still got to pedal it just because I can go 360. The financial aspect of it didn't make sense to me. So I made the jump, and I have one of the first production models that came off out of there. I got one. Shout out to my man Kevin at Rocktown Adventures. They're one of the local dealers in Rockford, Illinois, and they got one. So, and
Rockford,
yeah, and
you used to work in Rockford,
huh?
I used to work in Rockford.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Believe it or not, I was a security guard at a high school there.
Really?
I mean, obviously. I really was. I'm not lying. I'm making this up. I'm not going to hijack. Keep going.
No, you're good. You're good. Your show. I'm just a guy.
You just went really like you didn't believe me. I had handcuffs. I had a baton. All things I had no business having on my belt.
You was a real Paul Blart, huh?
I was Paul Blart, school cop.
Yeah.
All I had was a radio. So if something would happen, I just
step away from the gummies. Step away. Yeah, I can see that now.
The school actually had 2 police officers in the school. So if something actually were to happen, I just hop on my radio and actually call law enforcement to run down the hallway. It was a rough school. All right, keep going.
Yeah, no. So I jumped into the Old Town, and it's best decision I could have made. Best decision I could have made was switching over to Old Town. Now I don't have I'm not a pro staff with Old Town.
Oh, why not? Come on, Old Town.
I haven't ventured into that area with them just yet, but I have a great relationship with Ryan and Alex at Old Town, and they're great, and they've been so supportive. But I've had this kayak now since 2020, and just been flawless. It's been great for me, and very happy, and definitely recommend them.
Yeah. Well, if you're on listening in, guys, thanks for showing up. We got ChiCityYaker with us. If you're coming in a little bit late, if you got a question for us, go ahead and throw that in the comment section. That's what I love about this show, is that it is interactive. When there's questions, look at this. Jeff's coming in, born and raised in Rockford. Love it. Burt Macklin, FBI over there. And then wildflower. This is early on. I missed it. I saw it now. We need to know. Did I do your angry shore anglers?
Whatever you want, yeah, by all means.
Go. Set the stage for us. I want to hear this.
Yeah. So it's fall time kingfishing, and this is that one time of year where it gets hectic because these fish are coming into the harbors, and that means they're accessible for the shore guys, which is great. Obviously, I'm an advocate for everyone to fish. I don't think any one style of fishing should trump the other, whether you're boat, kayaking, or shore. I think we all have to work together, right? Especially when you get into more confined, combat fishing, if you will. So I'm on a trip. I guide, and I got my client, and I'm working with him on dialing stuff in. It's not a super hot bite this night. This year overall has been it was a real funky kind of a fall run. So it wasn't like a hot bite at all at this point. We were grinding quite a bit. And
so everyone's mad in general because they're not.
Yeah, maybe. So as I'm making a pass, it's hard to describe. Just think about like a bowl, and I have to kind of circle back around to go back the other direction. So as I'm circling around, I turn back, and as I turn back, you've got the shoreline. Now I'm mindful of the shore guys there fishing. I don't want to interfere with their stuff. And so I'm trying to turn as best I can. And so I turn, and as soon as I turn, I start veering out further away from them. At this point where I make my turn, I'm 60 yards away from them. Not on top of them.
Yeah, they might be able to cast 60 yards if you gave it.
Well, but they can, right? With little Cleos and a spinning rod, you can yoink those things out there. If you got a 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce spoon, you can yoink it further than 60 yards. But here's the thing, right? Does it mean you should? If you saw someone turn in front of you, common sense. Well, I'll just cast at this angle for a second, and then I'll go back to casting here, right? They saw I'm turning. It wasn't like they were coming into them or riding the shoreline to across everyone's lines. But the one genius decides to cast purposely over the back of my line. I mean, I heard the thunk right behind me. I thought it might even hit me. I heard the thunk.
He was aiming for you.
Yeah. So he did it on purpose. He catches my line. So mind you, it's hard because I don't know the direction, but for me here on my right side, this is the shoreline side. This is the open water side. Mm-hmm. He manages to tangle the open water side rod line with his cast. That's how far he threw it. He tests. So now my left rod is in the rod holder. I see it flop, right? But when the king hits, it'll flop and then it goes down. This just had the rod flopping around in the holder. I'm like, this is very odd. I put 2 and 2 together. I realized this idiot has now caught my line. So I'm like, all right, let me be cool. I pull up my other line. I turn around, and at this point, you see in the video, all the profanity start coming out. Oh, you this, that, the other.
Not from you. I'm impressed.
No. Yeah, no, not from me.
I mean, it's just flying off the shore, though.
Yeah, the guy from the shore. It was a couple of them. They're in the group. So it was the one kid in his 20s, I'd say. And then there was like this older guy who was just blasted. He had too many Pabst Blue Ribbons or something. I don't know. So he's running after the mouth, just calling every profanity. I don't want to say it here, obviously, but it was a lot of crazy stuff. And funny enough, this was all against the backdrop of a karaoke night where people were singing Disney classics. So it's pretty funny. In fact, at one point in the video excerpt, the minute that he finishes a rant calling me all kinds of wild stuff, the music ends, and it was almost like it was perfectly like timed. It was comedy within this. So they're going on, and dude, I'm like, at that point, I'm like, guys, you casted behind me. What did you expect to happen here? You created this mess, and you got the audacity to be mad at me. You saw me turn. Well, why don't you go out to the open water? Why don't you go further out over here? I'm like, guys, I was turning around. I purposely turned out and away from you guys. And I still wasn't on top of you. So, we had a discussion. One thing is, admittedly, it took everything in my power not to just have that conversation and turn it into something else, because they were in the wrong. They were just complete jerks. But I know that I'm fairly recognizable in my area and the places I fish. A lot of people tend to watch my videos. They recognize the kayak. It's not hard to put two and two together.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I start saying something, this now turns into not idiot short anglers, but it now turns into ChiCityYaker goes off, and now I look like the D-bag.
Right.
So I had to just really keep that in mind. Like I really can't say much here, because it'll look bad. It'll look worse for me, because people can see me.
Yeah.
No one knows who these anglers are. No one knows who they are at this point, right? Don't know who they are.
Which is probably the reason they're mouthing off.
Of course, right? Yeah, big tough guys.
They're in the dark. You're fishing. Yeah. It's kind of night, right?
Yeah. No, it was at night. Yeah, it was.
They're
in
a group. No one can see anybody. They got anonymity, and they're just going crazy. So, and you're guiding, so you're just like this
and I
level.
That really threw me off for the rest of that trip too. I had to offer the guy another trip, just because I felt bad, even though it didn't interfere with him directly. But I felt like my mood wasn't there, and I was like, you know what, let's go out again, because I feel like, one, the bite wasn't great, and I wasn't, I was kind of thrown off. That being said, dude took the lure, and it's my lure now. I said, all right, but now I'm like, cut the crap. Let me get my lure and I go on my way. This is being real,
You asked for it back in the midst. Watch this video. Like, can I get that back?
Yeah. And he goes, no, it's mine now. And I'm like, yo, let me get my lure back. And it was more about principle. I can get lures all day. It wasn't about me being stuck up on this one lure, but it was a principle of the idea, bro, you're going to get my lure back. He refused to. And then he said, fine, you want your lure? And like the little 12-year-old toddler that he was, he threw it into the lake. There it is. Go get it. All right, bud, whatever. So, I know the DNR agent that works that harbor.
Right.
I told him the story after the fact. He's like, you should have called me right on the spot. I would have been there. I was like, well, I don't want people to go to jail over this stuff. So whatever, and then at the end of the day, they gave me free content that I was able to monetize off of. So joke's on those idiots.
And here we go. We're talking about it here. It is great content. I'm super impressed, because I'm watching it, not understanding how you're holding your tongue. So props to you. I understand why you do it as a content creator. People, you become
when you're a content creator, you're people will always look for a reason to put you in the crossfire and the target on you. So you just got to do your best to limit that. It will happen. I'm sure it'll be something I say at some point. Someone will take and try to put my feet to the flame on it. But you certainly want to mitigate that from being a thing. Yeah.
I mean, you get all kinds of kinds. Here's a wildflower. Last spring, fishing a lake for trout with twitter buds and yaks, where we catch all kinds of flack from the bankers because we're hammering them 40 to 50 yards out from the shore, ruining their day. Who knows? Here's the thing. I think hurt people. And at the end of the day, it's always better to kind of take the higher road. So glad you did that. But you said you guide. Tell me a little bit about that. Share a little bit of what you do, because I'm going to call you up next time, because I'm a fundraiser, so I travel over Chicago, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, and tell me how that works.
Yeah. So I call it guiding just because that's the easiest way. It's very understandable for those of us that fish. We understand what like guiding, when you're going on a guided trip or you get guided, but honestly, it's more of like coaching. Unlike guiding, when you go out on the boat, you're with a charter captain, they're setting the lines, they're taking everything. You're just reeling in the fish.
Yep.
And that's true in most cases when you're on a boat or a vessel. What's unique about kayak fishing is that I can't get in your kayak and pedal for you and set your lines. So truthfully, it's more of like one-on-one coaching, and it's a way for us to have that one-on-one, for me to instruct you on the technique, how to do this, explain the reason why we're doing it, which is very important. It's really the premise of, I could take you to fish for a day, you'll eat for that day, and if I teach you the stuff, you can eat for a lifetime, right? That old analogy. If I probably screwed it up, but you know the one I'm talking about.
I think we get it. Yeah,
you get it. So the whole premise is that for those that want to learn how to do this safely and to be successful doing it, we go out on a coach trip. I prefer coaching, but guided tends to be the easiest way to describe it.
Hmm.
And so we'll go out, and again, yeah, it's one-on-one. They pick my brains throughout the entire time. I'll look at their setup and their kayak, and I'll offer ways so they can kind of make it more efficient for the kind of fishing we're doing, which is primarily trolling.
Hmm.
Well, some people want to go out and do specialized stuff like jigging for kings, which is the best, like the top of what you can do. It's the biggest blast on spinning gear, jigging them up. It's nothing like it. Um, so yeah, I hope to educate folks to be able to do this so that they can gain confidence, the knowledge, and then go out and do it for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. I love working with people. And honestly, it really just, I love to catch big fish and catch fish and all that stuff. Obviously part of it is the job now, right? For content, I need to catch fish. Like today was a bust. There's no content from today. It sucks.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly enjoy watching someone. In fact, you brought up Kyle from Indiana. Oh God, I always screw up his full title. Indiana Journal.
Fishing
Help me out
Kayak
here.
Journal, Kayak
Yes,
Fishing
thank
Journal,
you.
Kayak Fishing Journal. It
Kyle,
was on last
can we
week.
get an abbreviation on this? It's so long. Help me out here, bro. But I've known Kyle for a while now, and he's like, hey, I want to book you for a trip. Like, oh wow, yeah, cool, let's do it. He never caught a king before, and so we get out in the water, and I'm like, okay, this. Here's why we're doing it. Start off with these lures. Cool. We start off with the lures. Next, he it was a very tough day. The water was blown out, so I'm like, it's not going to be an easy day. And we grinded it out. We didn't get bit until middle of the day.
Oh wow, it's a long morning.
Yeah. So, but the thing about it, which was cool, was that, I said, here, start with these lures. And over that time, right, he made his own adjustments based off of like the information I shared with him. And he switched to some other lures, and he figured it out, and he put it together, and he caught his fish. And he caught his fish on quick fish, flatfish.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with the flatfish.
I'm not familiar.
They're like a banana style lure.
Oh yeah,
It's the lip is built into it
for walleye and stuff, don't they? They kind of.
I don't know about that. I think they're most like they use them a lot for trout and salmon, but not in our area. They're not, people don't generally use them in our area. I think it's more like a West Coast thing.
Okay.
Possibly. Anyway, he took what we were doing before and he decided to make some tweaks, and boom, he caught his fish. And anytime I take someone out and I'm able to kind of give them the information and they apply it and boom, they get a fish, I love that. It's a great feeling. I'm as happy, if not happier, for them. So when I heard him scream out fish on, I was like, oh, let's go. I get excited.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to coach him in, like, okay, keep the line tight, Now when it comes to netting, I'm coaching through that, because there's a couple of different points in the fight where you can really lose them. And so
netting's one of them. That's for
netting
sure.
is a big one of them. Yeah, that's the last one. So yeah, I'm just coaching him along the way. I'm keeping my distance. I'm there if he needs help, but hey, do this, keep the deck tight, keep moving, turn there, all in a way to instruct him how to handle his fish. And the big thing is staying calm, because your adrenaline gets going.
And when that starts ripping, that sounds
you become yeah. So but I love being able to take people out and seeing them catch fish for their first time, especially, and they're like a kid. I literally see the kid in them come out, and it's a great feeling. So I enjoy it. Yeah.
That's why you're going to be successful on YouTube, because you love that. Some people don't. They just want to go out, and that's fine, catch fish, and that's where they get their joy. When you get joy out of watching other people meet their goals, those are the people that you see on YouTube that are successful. So
hope so. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Hey, look, we got some comments over here. Let me see. Just sub Shy City. Look at
Thank
that.
you.
I second that. Got a couple people there. Love it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, I got something I do every single one of my shows, which is the lightning round, usually around this time. I got 5 questions for you, 1-word answers. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. How many times a week do you fish?
4 to 5.
Ooh, dang. Everyone's yelling. Everyone hates you right now. They're all subbing from you at this moment, because you fish a lot more than they do.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's different, right? Like I'm full-time creator. I need to get out there on the water for 2 reasons. I gotta pattern these fish, because if I take people out, I need to know what's going
Where they're
on,
at, right?
and then I need content. I need fish catches, and so yeah,
Yeah,
I got to be out there.
we hate you. It's all right. We love and hate you at the same time. Question number 2: favorite fishing kayak accessory that you have on your yak?
Without a doubt, that's definitely going to be the I think I'm going to say the Black Pack Pro from Yak Attack.
All right, we'll circle back. Question number 3: one thing that you hate about YouTube?
That drama gets more views than quality, just non-drama content.
All right, I hear you there. Question number 4: favorite YouTube channel?
Phew.
Or content creator, kind of the same thing.
Yeah. You know what? And God bless him, because I know he's going through a lot right now. But Black Tip H, he's the one I've been watching for years. I think he's probably one of the best fishing creators out there, and just incredible what he's done. And obviously, I think it goes without saying that hopefully he pulls through the cancer, man.
No, all right. I don't follow, so that's the first time I've ever heard him. All right,
Oh man, dude's massive, yeah.
all right. Here we go. I'm surprised he hasn't showed up on my feed then.
Well,
I feel like everything else.
he's saltwater, so
Okay,
maybe
that's
that's why.
why.
Yeah,
I
if you're
run
all freshwater,
guys. Yeah.
yeah, it's funny because depending on what you kind of fishing you do, you'll only get that kind of a fishing on your feed. So if you're not salt, you won't really see a lot of salt guys, and vice
Nope.
versa.
Yeah. Largest fish you ever caught across all species?
My 30-pound wall-mounted king salmon. That's right
Oh,
over
there it
off.
is.
Yeah,
30's a big one.
yeah, 30 broke the
That's
30.
usually the upper echelon, but Lake Michigan record is stupid.
Yeah.
40, almost 48.
Mm-hmm.
Silly.
Yeah,
That was up in Ludington, right?
They caught that guy last year. I think it was 46 or 47.
Yeah, 40. They got it written down here.
Well, that was a new
47.86.
Michigan. Yeah, it was a new Michigan record. I don't know if that's the lake-wide record, perhaps, but it was a giant.
Yeah, that's a beast. That's a
And then
beast.
we had one on our side this year that was broke 40.
Jeez.
It was a new Wisconsin. I think it might have been a Wisconsin record now. 40
Nice.
something.
Nice. Yeah. All right, walk me through just kind of how do you target kings? Your lures. I know most people usually, troll with spoons. At least that's what I do when I go out. I go out Lake Michigan every once in a while. My uncle owns a salmon fishing boat, but never been on a kayak. Would love being that low to the water and loving that. So just like you're out today, right?
Yeah.
Freezing. Most people got their boat in your kayaks up in a hoist from where we live. How much longer do you have in the season before you gotta call it?
You can fish the lake up until it ices over out of your kayak. There's fish to be caught. The big thing with fishing like Michigan is that it's a lot of it is seasonal based. So depending on the time of the year is what's going to dictate what the primary species of salmon or trout is going to be around for you to target. So the kings are done for now. Like no one's targeting kings. They're done. The kings that are out there now are going to be way out in the lake doing what they're doing. But now
Getting big for next year.
getting big for next year. Yep. But now we have the browns and the lake and the browns lake trout, depending on where you're at, and the steelhead are moving into the harbors and the rivers.
All
And
right.
so now that's going to be our primary species targeted all the way through ice over, and then early spring when we cannot hit that ice out. The browns and the steelhead are going to be a big primary targeted fish. You'll get some coho here and there, but for the most part, it's the browns and the steelhead. But as far as kings go, again, we start to see kings. You can start to see them in the spring, maybe around May-ish. Depends what area. If you're fishing down in Indiana versus up in Wisconsin, there's a lot of variables in this. But simply put, your springtime, it's possible to catch spring king, which is fantastic. They eat great because cold water, meat's great, bright. And so you can catch these fish with spoons. You catch them with dodgers and flies. Crankbaits also effective in this period. Once we go into summertime patterns, then you're typically running spoons, and flasher flies are going to be your primary means to target them. And then we move into the fall period, which is it's probably the best point if you're looking to get into kayak fishing like Michigan. one of the best times of the year to do it is going to be in the fall, August, September, because you're simply trolling crankbaits, flatline,
Mm,
very minimal kind of effort in doing this, so it makes it more accessible for people.
mhm.
And you're also not having to go off way out in the open water. You can work harbors right out front of the harbors, right near shore.
Right in front of shore anglers, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, run across their
Yeah.
lines. Absolutely. Screw them
Great con
all.
You want some great content?
I want great content. I should
drag a
definitely do
treble.
that. Yeah, I actually should. Um, so yeah, so crankbaits become a big thing. Your reef runners, your flicker shads,
Mm,
your thunder sticks become the tools of the trade for that. So depending on the time of year, is going to dictate what kind of a lure and presentation you're going to want to implement to catch some kings.
yeah. So essentially, you're telling everybody, "Hey, the best time to get started in this was last month." You
Yeah.
missed it.
No, you can fish them. Honestly, I mean, August through October, through the end of October, is going to be your fall king window. The further you get in October, once you get in October, I stop because that's my crappie time, and the kings at that point, I'm not keeping for meat at all. A lot of they've already kind of turned, so you're catching them for fun. Which, if you want to do, by all means, do it. August to September, if you want to keep them for meat, are probably going to be your best periods to keep them. And either the meat's going to be good enough to still grill or just smoke them, which is what
Yeah.
I prefer. Yeah.
All right. Real quick, I wanted to ask you this earlier and never got around to it. So, if someone wants, say they're flying in Chicago, when you guide, coach, do you have a second kayak, or do
Yes.
they have to like bring it in? All right. So
Nope.
how would someone book with you, real quick?
Yeah, just really reach out to me. It can be on Instagram DM or via email, ChiCityYaker at Gmail. And just reach out and we kind of go over everything. A lot of things I ask are what's your current experience level kayak fishing, so I have an idea of what we're working at, what we want to do here. Are you brand new to it altogether,
Mm,
or are you already been kayak fishing and now you want to pivot into like big water fishing? All that helps into me kind of developing kind of a plan, so I know what I need to deliver on, and so that that individual has the right tool set.
yep.
And so yeah, a lot of it early on is just discussing where they're at, what kind of kayak they're using, so I have an idea of what's going on. And yeah, and someone that doesn't have anything, I've got I got an Old Town Predator. uh I'm sorry, it used to be the Predator. It's Old Town Big Water 132, which is fantastic for big water. Pedal driven. I've got all the gear. I'm all locked and loaded with hashtag sponsor Okuma gear.
I
So
saw that box opening. There's a bunch of
that
stuff in there, man.
was a lot. That's a lot. So yeah, I've got everything turnkey. Someone can literally just show up to the ramp with nothing else, and everything's in there, ready to go. Fish
And that's gonna
finder.
be me next year.
Yeah, there you go. There
In
you
the
go.
month where it's easy to catch them. I'm
Yeah.
serious. We're gonna do it. I
Okay.
travel up there all the time.
Okay.
I gotta catch.
We'll do it.
It's
We'll do
been
it.
years since I've been on my wife's uncle's boat, and just that sound, I almost forgot what it sounded like until I watched one of your shorts recently, which will now forever be in my shorts feed since I watched one of them. So, but
Thank you.
just to hear that rip, there's
Yeah.
nothing like that sound. It's
It,
addicting.
it's nothing like it. That one went viral. I had 1,000 followers on Instagram. That one went viral, and I've literally uh 30, 35, 3,600 followers now.
Jeez.
That reel went viral. I don't even know where it's at right now. So
It's so funny how it can go viral over here and go nowhere over here, like on different
I mean, we
platforms.
can have this discussion. Shorts, I mean, um, short form content is great for the numbers growth. Um, so I highly recommend putting up shorts and reels up on your platforms to mix it in with the long form content. This might be hyper creator stuff that we're talking about right now, but yeah, no longer do you need to separate and have a channel just for shorts and then a live stream only channel. Your one channel, your main channel has it all now. I don't know if you know, YouTube changed the homepage now, so now you can
Mhm.
click videos. Now it's all separated,
It's all
very easy to
separate.
navigate.
Nice. Real
Nice.
nice.
Yes.
I feel
Very
bad for all
nice.
the guys who were like, "Oh, I don't want this. It's all kind of amalgamated together. I'm going to start
It's a lot
my
more
own
work.
channel." And then
Yeah.
they got 3 channels, wishing they could kind of, make a
Bring
conglomerate
it back
back into
together.
one. Yeah.
It works if you have I don't know about you. I'm solo. I don't have enough revenue to pay someone to run that, but some people can pay someone, then they can just keep doing that, but I like having one central place and people can go on there and look for whatever they want. Long form, you want a short form,
Mm.
want to see a live stream, pick the tab and go through the content and have fun. But yeah, reels and the shorts, definitely, man. I've seen the increase in the results from that. Very impactful.
Yeah, it's stupid right
Yeah.
now. It's
Mhm.
not going to be like that forever, but if
No.
you're a small channel and want to grow it, focus on your short form content for
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
For sure. Because the algorithm change, I feel like it buried my longer videos, at least for the right now. I'm not
I,
getting near the reach I used to.
yeah, and that's the hard thing. Like, I know I'm in a niche, and I think that's what's been working to my advantage is that there's a lot of millions of people are doing kayak fishing videos and doing this kind of. There's not a lot of guys that are doing Lake Michigan kayak fishing, salmon and trout.
You are right. You are
and
correct.
and I've been fortunate enough to position myself just from the content and consistency to be someone that's at one of the forefront of that, in the content creating space. But it doesn't translate into, like, my videos get a couple hundred views, some of them will pop over 1,000. They're certainly not like Greg Blanchard. That guy gets 30K a pop every video,
Everyone.
every one of them, and he makes good stuff. I enjoy it, but
Yeah.
like, some people just, it just the way it works.
It's just
So
the way it is. That's what it
mhm.
is. Hey, real quick question. I actually JC Travels coming in saying, "Hey, what's up, Wendell? ChiCityYaker, love your stuff, my guy."
Oh,
Um,
thank you, JC. Appreciate it,
yeah.
bro.
So, be honest. I always when I went out salmon fishing, when you catch a big old lake trout, are you disappointed, hoping it was a king?
Um,
I always was. I'm like, oh, it's a log. Oh, it's not fighting. Yep, it's definitely a big old lake trout.
you know, guys give lake trout such a bad rap here. And you know what? Like, here's my thing with lake trout. Oh God, you're gonna get me with an audio bite. I know this, and you had to bring up the lake trout. Listen, my feeling on lake trout is this: when the silver aren't cooperating, the lake trout can save your trip. I
True.
would rather catch something than nothing.
All right.
So, you catch them. You don't have to keep them. Uh, well, in the summertime, if you're pulling them from the depths, they're gonna die. You might as well keep them. And they smoke good. They do smoke really good. I prefer to keep Lakers in the spring and like now in the winter because that
Mm.
cold water, it definitely that the meat pulls together a lot better than in the summer. So yeah, I'm not opposed to catching Lakers. I also don't run a lot of stuff that Lakers will take.
Mm.
So I don't tend to, like, this year I caught one Laker all year.
Oh, all
I
right.
got a log of all my catches, and I've caught over 800 pounds of fish this year.
Nice.
And I'd have to pull the numbers up, but yeah, I've caught a lot of meat, a lot of fish, and I think one of them is a Laker this year.
Just one.
Just
Dang.
one, yeah, just one. Um, that could be more if I fished out of Chicago, like downtown Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
The further into Chicago and down in Indiana, there's a lot more Lakers around. I could probably catch more of them, but
Yeah.
they're not exactly a target for me.
I
So if
got
I
you.
do catch them, they're like a bycatch, but I don't hate them either. I'll just either let them
It's
go
still
or keep.
big. It's still a big, beautiful fish. I hear
Yeah,
you, but there's
they
a
get
lot of
big.
guys that they spend an insane amount of money to catch king when they get something else other than a king on the line.
Yeah, they get
They-
disappointed,
they're a little
but
smart. I get that.
there's definitely ways, especially out of a boat. One technique that I think is really cool that guys in Canada have been doing is they'll run spinning rods on their riggers. So if you're in a
What?
boat, right? Yeah, they'll run a spinning rod on the rigger to put it in the rigger, and they're running 10-pound line because now you get a better fight out of that fish.
Oh yeah,
Because people complain that they don't fight hard and whatever else. Well, if you're using big, heavy gear, you're just gonna haul them. You're just gonna dog them in.
yeah.
So if you really want to fight, you can do that. Jigging for them was fun. You can go light. So there's ways to make lake trout fishing fun. Catching them off a break wall, jigging is
Mm,
actually a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that. Hey guys, we got about 5 minutes left. I got ChiCityYaker with me. You got a question for him? One of the last questions. I'll bring it back around to the comments from people watching in. Throw that in the comment section. Got a question for you because I love salmon. Love eating it. What's your favorite way? Top 3 ways to prepare.
Top 3. Cool.
And do you have
First,
800 pounds in a deep freezer somewhere in your basement?
no, I've offloaded quite a bit of it. Where's my phone? I can
I could
actually
only
look.
imagine the
Where
friends you have.
you know the sad part is a lot of my family doesn't even eat
What?
fish. I gotta find people to give
What?
it away to. Yeah, I don't like to waste fish. I really don't, because it's a resource. Even though we have a stock and put system, I rather give it to someone that in need, that doesn't have the luxury to have. That's a delicacy to have
Yeah, it is.
salmon. It's not
Nice
everybody can
fish.
afford that. Yeah, so I try to find people that I'll go on my social media and, hey, somebody that never had salmon wants salmon. I'll give it away to the people. But let's see. Yeah, I'm looking at my numbers now. Okay, so I got 701, basically 702 pounds of fish total weight.
Nice.
Caught 120 fish total. We've got um caught 61 total coho, 11 total brown trout, 1 laker, 30 salmon. I'm down about 20 on salmon. This run was not as good as last year. Last year I
Yeah.
caught about 50.
What are your kind of thoughts on that?
As to why this year wasn't as good as last year
Yeah, I mean,
for
is it
Kings?
is it overfishing? Is it a stocking issue? Is something
No,
happen? What happened?
yeah, I think for whatever reason, the Kings this year hung out more on the Michigan side. They
Mm,
had some monster kings. They had a phenomenal fall run, especially in the staging period in August. I mean, these guys on the Michigan side were boating, 5-man limits, all kings, and like the smallest king was 18 pounds. It was ridiculous. So they had a lot of the big fish. There was a lot of big fish also up in like up over in Green Bay along what's the not is it Sterling Bay? No, Jesus, it's slipping my mind right now. Sturgeon Bay.
okay.
Sturgeon Bay produced a lot. But in our area, like northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, we just didn't see the big fish. And a lot of these fish grouped together by size.
Right.
We had a lot of teeners, your 12 to 18. We'd get fish over 20, but it just wasn't in the same volume and numbers
Mm,
as it was last year. So this year was quite a bit different. I think they just hung out in different places and then stood there, didn't want to come back over this way.
yeah, they hang over where I fish. It's exactly where I wanted to be. So I'm okay with it. I'm sorry for you, but
I hate
happy
you.
for for
No,
me. We
I don't
still
hate
got
you.
to talk about how you're going to prepare these things.
Yes. One of my favorite ways that I discovered when I went on a PNW trip, Pacific Northwest trip last year with Old Town, cedar plank. Oh my God, that is amazing. You,
Ooh,
um,
okay.
Cedar plank, highly recommended, easy to do. Just go on Amazon, grab some, cooking cedar plank. Don't get the other kind. You're gonna cook the fumes and yeah. Cedar plank, it's amazing because you get some of that smoke into the fish.
Mm,
Um, and phenomenal. Love that. Other way I like my salmon is blackened. I like blackened coho, so put a little blackened seasoning on it. On the meat side,
mm,
take a skillet, just a little bit of oil on there, put it skin down first, and then flip it and let it. It works really great for coho because the meat's a little bit thinner, so it'll cook evenly. If you get a
okay.
big king, if you got the big hump of meat, it's not going to cook evenly. So this is more for like your coho, or like your trout. As long as the fillet is pretty even, right? So when you flip it, it's flat across.
Yeah,
That'll
yeah.
work with any kind of fillet in that style. And then third would be just kind of old school in the oven, wrap it up in aluminum foil, put some butter, some salt, pepper, and wrap it up in foil and just bake it.
Nice. Those all
Mhm.
sound delicious. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
to the
very
grocery
basic.
store right now. Yeah, it sounds amazing. So we're coming up on the end of our time.
Yeah.
I got one last question for you. I ask this to everyone who comes on. Who that you know would be great to have on this show?
Um, Honestly, I think there could be 2 people. I know you said 1,
Well, you can go ahead
but
and say two. You do it. It's my
okay.
show. I can do whatever I want, right? You know how
Yeah,
this
yeah,
goes.
yeah. One is someone that I learned from. Is funny enough, his name is you guys share the same last name, but his name is Rob Wendell. Um,
I
he
love him. This guy's awesome. Everybody.
he he is he's someone that took me under his wing and helped me out early because he's with kayak. He was kayak fishing in the just the recreational
He's
paddle
OG.
ones way back in the day. Yeah,
Yeah.
like years ago when he was in college. So, and he's an old crusty at this point. So he'd be great. A wealth of information. He owns Lake Michigan Angler, which is the place to go for your salmon, trout fishing needs, for your tackle, lures, everything. Got it all there. Just a wealth of information. He'd be great to pick his brain on stuff. And another individual who might be Nick Von Gompel. He runs the Great Lakes Kayak Fishing Tournament Series,
Okay.
and he is someone that, against all odds, won Salmonorama out of his kayak with his 34-pound king. A kayak
Nice.
angler won Salmonorama this year, beat all the boats, and they were
Love it.
pressed. They were pretty pressed about that. So I'm actually looking forward to getting a hold of him for a podcast show too. So he'd be someone that I think would be great to talk to, from the tournament side of things, as
Yep.
well as his experience winning that. I think he took home $25K for the grand prize.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Congrats to that gentleman. Here, I
Yeah.
I lied. I got another question coming in
Yeah,
from
sure.
Wildflower 85. This is going to be the last question of the show, folks. Number one tip for fishing big water in a yak, aside from watching the weather reports like a hawk. What,
Okay.
what do you got to say to that, Michael?
Yeah. Okay. Good. The weather is for sure would have been the number one, but if we're not talking about weather, biggest tip is to have the proper safety stuff with you. Radio, PFD, wear it at all times. Proper lighting, especially you're fishing in low light. A lot of times when we're fishing in the summertime, you're leaving early in the morning when it's still dark out. Boats will not see you. You got to have like a
Mhm.
big stupid light on. And then same thing in the fall when a lot of times, like last year, the bite was better at night. Once the sun went down,
Hmm.
and so you want visibility. You want to be visible. You want like air horn or some kind of sound device, so that you're prepared for all of that. Just I would say all the safety stuff. It's not flashy. It's like the boring stuff of the kayak fishing, but man, it's so necessary to have those items ready to go. Set them up in your kayak or on your PFD in a way that makes it very accessible to reach. Because in an emergency, if you do happen to panic, you don't want to have to fumble around with too much. So make sure everything is put into place, whether it's on your PFD or on the kayak, where it's easy to get to in an emergency. And I'll add one other thing, which is don't put too much crap on your gunnels, because if you
Mm.
need to recover, as I shared early on in the story, when I fell out of my kayak, I realized I had rod holders, I had this there, I had this there. I couldn't self recover from the side because all that stuff was blocking me. So always treat your kayak as if you're going to fall in, have the proper safety things, and don't put stuff along the sides where you would need to self recover. And I would say those would be the important things for big water fishing.
Solid, solid, solid. Hey guys, if you have not yet done this, please head over to ChiCityYaker, give him a sub. I love watching his stuff. I think you will too. Michael, thank you so much for joining the show. I'll reach out to you in a little bit, but hey, um, I appreciate everything. I mean, I don't get out to Lake Michigan very often, but I love all the things we talked about today. I'm jacked, and I am going to be hitting you up
Yeah,
for a guide here sometime next year whenever I'm coming through town. So we're going
yeah,
to be fishing together. We'll get a video on the books,
we'll
and
do that.
this
Yep.
is going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I had a blast, a lot of fun. I appreciate you, and yeah, just thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. See you.
Later.